YouTube says I have 1 second to catch your attention. When I first started making videos back in 2024, YouTube said I had 30 seconds to catch your attention. Why has everything sped up? More importantly, what does this mean for channels that focus on slow crafting? Can slow crafting channels continue to find a broad audience and succeed on YouTube? Hi, welcome to Music Maker. I'm Harriet. In today's video, I want to think about the dynamic relationship between YouTube and slow crafting. When I first started making YouTube videos in December of 2024, the general advice that YouTube offered creators was that you needed to catch your audience interest within the first 30 seconds of a long-form video. As far as shorts go, YouTube used to have a requirement that shorts had to be at least 15 seconds. About a month ago, a viewer commented that one of the 15-second videos that I had made from, early on in the creation of my channel was too slow, that the short was too slow. And when I went back and looked at it, it was a 15-second short. So I queried the viewer and asked, do you mean the stitch that I'm demonstrating in this particular video, or do you mean the video itself? And they responded, the video itself. This led me to go back and double check the YouTube requirements for short videos, at which point I discovered that there's no longer a 15-second requirement for YouTube Shorts, and that in fact, YouTube is now advising creators to make shorts that are no longer than 10 seconds at most. The argument that is being put forward is that if those shorts don't capture viewers' attention within the first 1 second, or even in some cases the first half second, then they're not going to reach a broad audience. I was curious about this because my background is in teaching and learning, and so I queried the AI assistant that kind of comes with YouTube channels, and I basically asked what has happened here? Wasn't it 30 seconds for long form videos and at least 15 seconds for, shorts? And I believe that, in 2024, the advice was if within the first 5 seconds of a short, you haven't captured the audience's attention, your short may not get out. So the response that came back to me, and granted this is just an AI response, was yes, this has been a significant change in the way in which the algorithm promotes content. And the argument that was presented was that this isn't something that YouTube is imposing on viewers, that YouTube has simply adjusted to accommodate viewers' preferences. I'm highly skeptical about YouTube's kind of innocent claim that they are simply, reflecting viewer desire and giving the people what they want. But that's not really what I want to talk about here today. Instead, I want to talk about the question of the relationship between slow crafting and this push to offer, videos and content and information in faster and faster increments. Basically, I want to think about the value of slow crafting, because I think that it is better for our brains and our hearts and our spirits and our souls to slow down a bit. So you may have noticed, if you've ever experienced scroll immersion, that you started maybe watching a little bit of knitting, but next thing you know, you're watching a kitten, and then you're watching a squirrel, and then you're watching, a lion bring down its prey, and then somehow you're watching a celebrity and a political figure, and all this is coming at you in these, sort of rapid fire visual stimulations where you can see all of those things. If you add up the time, it's in the course of about a minute. And so your brain is constantly just pinging all these different things of visual interest. Slow crafting and slow living and slow food, right? All of the various slow movements that, have kind of come to the forefront culturally in the last say 5 to 10 years, are by definition deliberate, goal-oriented, reflective activities. And that goes for crafting as well. And so those are the basic premises of any kind of slow movement, right? You go slowly in order to be mindful. You know where the items are coming from that you're working with. You put effort into the process and not simply consume the product. And, along the way, you can consider things like what's sustainable, what's organic, right? What's low impact, depending on what, your individual preferences are. And I want to take a moment to emphasize that, because that's the idea. Like, you have time to consider what your preferences are. The short forms that the algorithm is feeding in these, 1 second, half second, like catch your attention, they are designed to create an environment in which you don't have time to consider what your interest is, because the algorithm has curated your interests for you and is presenting them to you. To my mind, one of the benefits of YouTube is that it offers this opportunity to bring crafting to a really wide audience. So when I first learned to knit and crochet in the 1970s, you basically had two options. One was, if you wanted to learn one of these crafts, you had to find someone who knew how to do the craft and then spend time in their presence physically learning the craft, physically learning what they taught to you. And so that's how I learned to crochet, right? A neighbor knew how to crochet, and when I was about 12 or 13, she, handed me some lovely acrylic yarn and a crochet hook and said, "Here, let me show you how to do this." If you didn't know someone who could teach you the craft, then you had to get a book. And you were very reliant on whether or not the written instructions were clear and the visual images were clear enough that they could, kind of give you a sense of how to proceed with the craft. If the book wasn't good, you had to go get another book and just keep trying. So, I personally find it really helpful, and I really like the fact that on YouTube you can get to see how to pursue a craft from people who enjoy it and have spent time with it, right? And it kind of widens that crafting community outward and gives you just many more opportunities to learn, which is always something that I've been in favor of. At the same time, though, I really want to express a kind of reservation about the fact that I don't think that passively consuming content that has been algorithmically curated for us is in the best interests of, as I've said, our minds or our hearts or our brains. It has the capacity to, stimulate and interest us, but the problem is that it stimulates and interests us in these very short bursts and gets us chasing that kind of stimulation, right? So to some extent, we lose the capacity to be a little bit bored. And although it may seem like, oh, I never want to be bored, you kind of do. Research suggests that, moments of boredom have the potential to be moments of creativity, right? You have to fall back on your own resources and figure out what you can do to interest yourself. That's a very active and engaged process, and it uses our brains. And it's almost as if, the slow crafting movement is starting to feel this push to hop from one shiny new object to the next. And I think that some of that is driven by the nature of YouTube's algorithm and the platform and what viewers seem to be wanting. I don't know. Not sure on that one. Although crafters can visually hop from stitch to stitch and do jump cuts and pretend that knitting or crochet or spinning or weaving are, potentially fast-paced forms of visual stimulation, at the end of the day, they really aren't, and that's not the point of them. I don't have a solution to this problem that I've described, but I do have a hope. And it was the hope that was, kind of behind my decision to create a YouTube channel from, right from the beginning. Simply put, my hope is that, there are enough other people out there who want and need and choose to slow down sometimes, to muse, to make, and to revel in the process that leads to the creation of a product, whether it's, a shawl, a scarf, a YouTube video, what have you, but something that we can be proud of. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again soon.